The truth will set you free. The truth will set you free.
Hey guys, Paeter Franson here. We are about to head back into our study of Proverbs with chapter 10. I think that'll be next week. But in getting ready, I realized there is a long lost episode of our Proverbs series that I forgot to release way back in 2018. Longtime supporter of Spirit Light Productions and Christian Geek Central, John Wilkerson of strugglingforpurpose.com partnered with me for the first 5 chapters of our study of Proverbs, and we capped it off with a very worthwhile and also frank discussion of sex within the marriage relationship. It really remains the most memorable part of my time chatting with John about Proverbs, and so I'm so bummed that I dropped the ball and that you guys haven't seen or heard this yet. So with apologies to John for the delay and gratefulness for his grace, here is that long overdue final portion of our conversation, taking a look at Proverbs chapter 5, verses 15 through 23. All right, finishing up chapter 5 then, verses 15 through 23 in the ESV, that reads, "Drink water from your own cistern, flowing water from your own well. Should your springs be scattered abroad, streams of water in the streets? Let them be for yourself alone, and not for strangers with you. Let your fountain be blessed, and rejoice in the wife of your youth, a lovely deer, a graceful doe. Let her breasts fill you at all times with delight. Be intoxicated always in her love. Why should you be intoxicated, my son, with a forbidden woman, and embrace the bosom of an adulteress? For a man's ways are before the eyes of Yahweh, and he ponders all his paths. The iniquities of the wicked ensnare him, and he is held fast in the cords of his sin. He dies for lack of discipline, and because of his great folly, he is led astray." Did you wonder if I was going to say breasts out loud?
No. It's there. It's in the passage.
But but I just say that because you're talking about how at the church, like, sex is like this. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see a little bit of that Song of Solomon coming out here
Yeah,
in
right.
this little section
That's
here.
right. Absolutely.
But oh man, how important it is for us to stay true to our wives, right? And recognize the gift God has given us.
Yeah.
To fall in love with one woman and delight in her for your entire life.
Yeah.
And it's a choice. Solomon talks about how this is you have to choose to do this because temptation awaits us around every single corner.
Yeah.
But and just being enraptured and captivated, held captive by the love of our wife and by who she is. As you were reading through this, I was thinking about how for a man's ways are before the eyes of the Lord. I'm thinking, and just right before that, Solomon says, "Let her breasts fill you at all times with delight."
Yeah.
Listen, God looks on that and he is pleased by that.
Yeah.
And we want to separate God from our sex lives, right?
Yeah.
But no, he looks at that and he's so pleased when he sees that. And there's probably some people squirming and getting uncomfortable right now. But listen, we're not being X-rated here at all.
Yeah.
So but also, we have to be, there's 2 things that we can be captured by, right? We can either be captured by that true love that God intends for a man and woman to have, or we can be captured by immorality. Both of those things are designed to trap us. And one leads to divine pleasure, and the other leads to, I don't know why. Sometimes I write these things. Okay, one thing, this sounds so dumb. One thing leads to divine pleasure, and the other leads to devilish delight. I wrote down. So, I think I'm preaching or something, And part of this, part of this is that there's instruction plays an important role in all of this. A father instructing his son and saying, look, don't chase after women. When you get married, let her be that one. Now, I don't know when Proverbs was written by Solomon. I don't know if it was written before he ended up with 700 wives and concubines, or in the middle of it, or whatever the case may be. And he may have been saying, look, son, don't make the mistake that I made. Don't get yourself caught up in this. And I mean, I know that there were a lot of times, back then you'd get a concubine and it was really just a possession. It was just okay, so we have this peace treaty. Here you go, have a concubine. And Solomon may never touch her.
Yeah.
We don't know the details of all that.
Yeah.
But we do know that kind of back then, unfortunately, women were traded.
Yeah.
It's a sad thing, and it's really kind of, you look back on it, and when you think about, Solomon is writing this. When is he writing it? Is he writing it before all of this happens? Is he writing it in the midst of it? Is he writing it afterwards, before he gets into Ecclesiastes and gets into this depression? We're not really too sure when it was all written and at what point. But this is all a choice. We can choose to be led away by temptation, or we can choose to be enraptured by our wives. Yeah. And if we choose the path of continuing to love our wives and continuing to fall more in love with her every single day, that is going to be the better path by far. And I'll tell you, as someone who's been married for 20 years, a lot of people they want marriage advice from me. I don't know why, but because I tell them, look, I've only been married for 20 years. Don't ask me, But you have to choose sometimes to love your spouse. You have to choose to say, I'm going to love her today, and I'm just going to be caught up in her beauty. Our bodies, both of our bodies have changed over 20 years.
Sure.
And that the physical attraction is still there. We still love each other, but over time, it kind of just fades to the background. And sometimes it's, you have to remind yourself, no, I'm supposed to enjoy my wife's body.
Yeah.
No matter what condition it is in after 20 years of marriage, after 30 years of marriage, after 40 years of marriage, I'm to enjoy my wife's body and not neglect that part of our marriage. Because I think it's easy to do that, and I think it's often why you see older men chasing after younger women, is because they have not decided in their head, I'm going to enjoy my wife's body the way it is now, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years later. Especially in a society right now that's big on appearances, where more and more people are getting plastic surgery to improve the way they look. I mean, you can look around and you look at that person is 60. Really? Yeah. How much did that cost?
Yeah.
So, it's just having a reminder to enjoy my wife as much physically as I enjoy the intellectual stimulation that she gives me and the spiritual support that she gives me. It's a good reminder to have.
Yeah. That's when he kind of like, what are these verses here? He's talking about in this whole passage here, finding enjoyment in your own well, in your own
Yeah.
cistern, and I think that, like, you talk about making this choice to enjoy your wife's body, wherever it might be as time passes and stuff like that, and I remember kind of like before Holly was, when she first got pregnant, I was like, oh man, I don't know how I'm going to do with this. And I started being concerned about, like, while she was pregnant and then after she was pregnant, how she would change and stuff like that, And I talked to a guy that respected, was about 10 or 15 years older than me, and a great guy, and it ended up not being the issue I thought it was going to be. And as time has passed, you at least in my case, you're not fixating so much on the things that are starting to wear out and look different and stuff like that, but there are these things that are consistently beautiful physically about my wife that I continue to enjoy and continue to come back to.
Yeah.
And as you say, like the other things, a lot of the physical stuff, the imperfections and what, it begins to fade into the background. And when you make that choice, I guess I just want to trumpet this to anybody that's thinking, boy, it sounds like, you're forcing yourself to psych yourself into thinking your wife is still attractive, and it's, I can understand why it would sound that way, but that's not the case. What I have found is that as I choose to fixate on those parts of her that currently catch my interest, and as I invest in her relationally outside of the bedroom, as we grow deeper in all the other areas of life, then the time in the bedroom actually becomes physically more pleasurable. Okay, I'm not going to get into the details, but there are just things that happen over the course of being dedicated to one person your entire life and enjoying those physical experiences along with all the other rich things in life that you experience together. The physical side of things, all that stuff, it, in my experience, is getting better,
Yeah.
So it's not, and so that's just a word of encouragement to anybody that might have, be hearing us and thinking, oh man, those poor guys are just psyching themselves into thinking their wives are still attractive.
No,
And
that's not the case.
That's not what's going on. So anyway, yeah, and I just think of it, and it makes total sense. This is how God designed sex to be. It makes sense that as we, align ourselves with how He talks about sex and what He says is true about sex, it makes sense that it would get better and better. And yet at the same time, my eyes can still wander to the woman jogging in front of me in the morning or whatever, and like, dang it, Paeter, dang it, So I find myself of two minds and wrestling in the trenches with anybody else that's listening to this and wrestling too, and I just think to myself in the midst of this battle, why in the world would we want to choose sexual sin when God is ever present? He's seen people repeatedly destroy themselves because of it, and He's also designed it to be so much more fulfilling when done His way.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you would like some help finding a good church in your area, I would love to help you do that if I can. Online resources and communities are good supplements, but by their very nature, they can't speak to your particular situation like relationships in a local church can. The context for almost everything in the New Testament assumes that we are serving and building purposeful relationships in a local church. So whether you're in a church that lacks Bible-based intentionality or maybe not attending any church at all right now, if I can help you get connected to an authentic, compassionate, Bible-oriented church, I would love to do that. Email me, please, paeter@spiritblade.com, and we can try to look at some websites of churches in your area together.